there, savvy home buyers and sellers. This is Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru, Mississauga real estate broker. And in today's episode, I'm going to go over how commissions are dealt with when buying a home. This video is great, especially for home buyers, so you understand how the process works and how to protect yourself. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So how does real estate normally work? So 99% of the time, a seller is going to list their home for sale. They're going to hire their real estate agent, and that real estate agent, out of the commission, is going to take a portion of that. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes they pay more. That really doesn't matter, but they're going to take a portion of it, and they're going to offer it on MLS as a commission to a buyer's agent who brings their client. And normally 90% of buyers hire their own real estate agent. This is the way it works. So they go around, they look at houses, and on every MLS sheet, it'll say how much they're paying commission. And when the buyer buys the home, their realtor is compensated via the seller. So that's the way it normally works. Now, the problem comes in is when the buyer doesn't understand that there are circumstances where this doesn't happen and they could be liable for the commission. So first off, buyers have to sign an agreement to work with their realtor, and whether it's a buyer representation agreement or a customer service agreement. And in most agreements, there's a spot on that agreement where there's actually commission payable to their real estate agent. So their realtor's going to fill it in and they're going to put whatever the going rate commission is. And if you read the fine print, I'm just summarizing here, it's going to say that they're entitled to be paid that commission in order to buy you a home. Now, again, think about it. 99% of the time, the seller is paying that commission. But what happens if the seller's not paying that commission? You've signed a contract saying that your realtor is entitled to be paid to do the services of buying you a home. So now I'm going to go over the three main ways that a buyer could be liable for commission. So first off, I already alluded to it, is when the seller is not paying a commission. So we have for sale by owner companies, people decide they don't want to pay a commission. Well, your realtor is still obliged to show you any and all houses that fit your criteria. The thing here is they need to be upfront and disclose to you ahead of time that that seller is not paying commission. Now, in reality, this doesn't happen that often. And if it does, usually there's a law of supply and demand, and the seller might have a harder time selling that house. And in that case, you can make an agreement with your realtor. Maybe you go in super low and you get the house for a steal because there's no other buyers interested in it, and you compensate your agent that way. Or maybe they negotiate with the seller and they decide to pay a commission. Regardless of what happens, the most important thing for you to understand is that it's been disclosed to you upfront that the seller's not paying the commission. And at that point, it's your decision whether you want to proceed and deal with your own agent. Number two, the seller is not paying the standard commission. So like I said, again, there's no such thing as a standard commission, but your agent's going to put a number of what they will be entitled to be paid, and it's usually what the going rate in the community. But if the listing side is only paying maybe a small, maybe $1,000, and the regular commission is 2.5%, there could be an issue there. And depending on the way the contract is written, you as the buyer could be liable to make up the difference to your buyer real estate agent. So make sure when you're signing a buyer rep, which there's nothing wrong with it, it actually protects you, but make sure you have that conversation ahead of time and ask them what happens if they're not paying the going rate commission that we're agreeing to. You want to be clear on that because you don't want to get caught paying money out of pocket that you weren't expecting to. So number three is if you're under an exclusive representation contract with a real estate agent, but then maybe you go to an open house and you see it and you love it, and the guy's really nice and he maybe offers a deal, and you decide to just buy the house through someone else. Guys, don't do that. You will be liable for the commissions. Whenever you sign any agreements, they are legal documents and you could be brought to court, and obviously that's just a place you don't want to go. Have that conversation with your realtor ahead of time. If they're not doing a good job, make sure you have some service guarantees in there, or be clear, but just don't, once you start working exclusively with your realtor, don't turn around and go work with someone else, because it might not end up the way you want it to be. Well, there you have it. I'm Jeff O'Leary. I hope you enjoyed my video on how buyer commissions are paid in real estate. The important thing to remember is most of the time, everything works out great. In fact, in over 11 years, not one buyer has paid me 1 penny. So it's not really an issue. But the challenge is I want you to be aware that there are circumstances where you could be liable for a commission. And it's better that you know this ahead of time and you can have that conversation ahead of time, so there's no surprises and you have a great experience. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. I'm Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.